Right on. Well, I think this last discussion we had, where you talked about your program that you attended and how much it helped you and everything, was really great and informative for people that are interested in an alternative type program
Yeah.
to what I spoke about, which was specific to firefighters. But at the end of the day, a lot of these are going to have a common thread to them with their therapies, treatments, kind of just because at the end of most of the time, right? Like this just revolves around our brains, our behaviors, our
Exactly.
thought patterns, stuff like that. So, you mentioned something during that podcast that just got me thinking, and it was you talked about denial.
Yeah.
And denial was something that you mentioned and kind of went into some detail about, not too great, but I think we take that topic here and we really kind of crack it open for the two of us as our both of our experience with denial.
Yeah.
But you mentioned in your first kind of your captain sat you down, hey Eric, got to send you home, and you're like, dude, I'm good. No, I'm not going home.
I just need a few days off. I'm all right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and you believed it.
Oh, I
100%
truly believed it.
in that moment, right?
Yep.
If you go back to Eric of that day, and fortunately that captain held his ground, and he saw that was the right path for you, which
Yeah.
is great. I mean, that's what we want in the fire service.
Yeah.
Peers that are coming at us from a place where they really care,
Mhm.
you know. And you described like you guys having it out pretty well.
Oh, we did. Yeah.
It wasn't just a calm conversation, is what it sounds
No.
like, which is good. I mean, when there's that kind of intensity, I believe that that's true caring.
Yeah,
empathy.
for sure.
That's when you know someone has your best interest in mind. But
Yeah.
and then you talked about when you went to the program itself. Even prior to going, you had met a doctor you were really clicking with,
Yeah.
and she mentioned the program, and you said no
Exactly.
because you were doing good with her.
Yeah.
You had a feeling that, nah, I don't need that. I'm
Yep.
good. I'm solid. This is enough, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And I certainly resonated with that when you said it, because it was similar to how I felt at times in the early stages of me looking at all this stuff. But so jumping right into denial, anybody that may be listening to this, first thing in your mind is probably like, yeah, I'm not a person that is in denial.
No, none of us are.
None of us are. Not firefighters. We're super self-aware, right? We really know where we're at all times. We have a good balance. We have this, we have that. And that's kind of how I felt. So for me, I sat down, I told you in the program I was in, ours was structured in a way where we were doing 4 to 5 class sessions per day
Yeah.
in a group setting. And each of these classes they vary from an hour and change to maybe 2 hours. So one particular day, I don't know how many days I'd been there, when I see on the course roster for the day, denial is one of the subjects.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. So show up to the class, and teacher hands out these pamphlets. So that's what I have in front of me here. And because I saved all my stuff, as I'm sure you did too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have
So
tons of
reference
stuff.
material. But of course, typical fireman, what I do, I'm gonna read through everything on this, and I'm gonna debunk it all. I'm gonna read through how none of this applies to me. Right?
Yeah.
That was as soon as I got this paper in my
That's
hand.
so true, dude.
The first thing I thought was like, but on the flip side, I was also thinking, but I have a very open mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Like, do you really? Yeah.
Let's see, maybe some of this, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Like, I really know
Yeah.
myself.
Oh, man.
So I started reading through these, and they call them denial patterns. And the question is, what denial patterns do you use? So for me, none. I'm never in denial.
Yeah.
Wasn't in denial when I left there. All that stuff. But anyway, as I look through here, it says here, check as many as needed, right? First one is avoidance. The next one is absolute denial. Then we have minimizing, rationalizing, blaming, comparing, compliance, manipulating, something they call flight into health, recovery by fear, and strategic hopelessness. So as I read through those real quick, I thought, I don't do any of those.
Uh-huh.
Right? So as an example, avoidance, one of the examples they get there, it says, I'll talk about anything but my real problems.
You said, oh, you don't do that.
I don't do that.
Yeah, no, you don't do
I'll
that.
talk about my real problems all the time.
Yeah.
So as I thought more and more about it, I thought, well, do I? And and I started thinking, well, how do you talk about your real problems when you know what the hell they are?
Yeah.
When you think you're good,
Mm-hmm.
and your wife or somebody in your life is telling you, hey, knucklehead, this this isn't right. Something's off. And you're like, no, it's
No.
good.
Yep.
It's good.
Yep.
And it's, so, and I'm open. Let's talk. Yeah. You want to talk about it? Let's talk. But you're not willing to like get to that particular issue or open that Pandora's box. We'll talk about all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Just not that.
Yeah. It can be pride and denial together, but I think it's mainly denial.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, you can, to me, it's like all that stuff, right? But when I looked at that for the denial thing, it's like, it's I mean, because it's painful.
Yeah.
Limbic system gets involved. The threat is there. So the brain strategically says, cool, I don't want you to be in pain. Don't avoid that. By avoiding it.
Yes.
It says, don't go there. Don't access that. Don't open that Pandora's box. So we avoid it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what it's called, is avoidance.
Yeah.
So consciously, I don't know that I was doing it, but I absolutely was doing it subconsciously.
Yeah.
Was avoiding the real problems. I was assigning blame to other things.
Yeah.
Right. Which is another one, blaming.
Mm-hmm. Blame is huge, man. Like when you're in denial, first of all, I mean, like all that stuff you're explaining, but when you get into that stage, like you said, with your brain and when you see fear and you're denying, you know, whatever your issues are, you know, that blame will come so quick. It's not me, it's you. It's not me, it's you. It's not me, it's that. It's not me. And you just start blaming. And in reality, you're not taking accountability for yourself. And it's just, yeah, it's big.
Well, that's the little, you know, quotation behind it is, if I can prove that my problems are not my fault, I won't have to deal with them. That's the blaming.
There you go.
So I think as firefighters, we're real good about, we want to know the why. We always have to dig into, you know, why, explain how this works. I mean, hell, every fire call we go on that's significant, we try to do an after action report. You know, we do our round table, square table, chalk talk, whatever you want to call it, station school. You know, your department's got its own name, I'm sure. But, you know, essentially we go back to what we had, we tear it apart. And most firefighters, we don't like the rah-rah stuff, right? We don't like the tailboard where we go, hey man, you're good, I'm good, we're all good, we're so great. Like, we like the ones where like, all right, hey, things went well, everybody's safe, fire went out, but hey, we screwed some things up, let's talk about it. Guys walk away from that like, yeah, that was great, because I got some real nuggets out of that, because you did it in a positive way, right?
Yeah.
And we're real good about that. That's okay, we can talk about that.
Yep.
But when it comes to you, me, individuals, and you start looking at these things, it's so quick and easy to just reassign it, deflect it, avoid it.
Exactly.
Absolute denial is another one here. So it says, no, not me, I don't have problems. And, you know, when others corner you, it says, I say I don't have a problem with alcohol or drugs, or that my loved one doesn't have a problem with alcohol or drugs. So it's not me, or I'm not addicted. I mean, go back to my issue with drinking. I was, hey man, it's sporadic. It was periodic. It was binge drinking at best, right? It was like, there were periods, a couple days in a row, hit it hard, sure.
Yeah,
and
then that's what I do.
Weeks off, months off sometimes. Sometimes other times it was, you know, like the pattern was a lot closer together.
Yeah. So,
but then you compare it, right? I compare it to, and that's another one of these here, showing that others are worse than me proves that my problems aren't as serious. So I talked about, you know, my dad. I grew up with a functional alcoholic. I'm not my dad. So you can't compare that. And like, you can't call me an alcoholic. I know what alcoholism looks like. Yeah. My father's an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm. Well, then even like sometimes with denial, dude, you know, I just looked up the definition. Well, we all know what denial is. You're giving, you know, all those examples because how it can not surface, but how it can be defined in different ways. So the definition, the action of declaring something to be untrue. And now you're telling yourself, that's not true. What I know is better. Or I know the truth. Why are you telling me what my truth is when you don't even, you're lying to yourself. Basically is what it is. And sometimes even denial, dude, like, I don't know if you feel this way, but sometimes I can feel what happened with me in denial was that gave me a way to not, I feel like, take what was going on from my personal life And because if I say, oh yeah, I do have this, I feel like it's like I'm pitting myself. So it was easier for me to say, I don't have that problem. Somebody else's problems are worse or whatever. Let's deal with them instead, because don't care about me. Don't pity me. I'm fine. I'm good. I'll move forward. But when you have the accountability and you're not in denial and you accept where you're at, I mean, that's being true to yourself. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what, I like the idea about this discussion, because I was just giving you a few examples, but I think in having this discussion, I think part of the kind of demonstrating the progress you've made, I've made, the things that we've learned, is to say something like, we can talk about this and we can both give examples of how we both did almost all of these.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
That was kind of my idea behind this one, because as I read through all these that first time, and I looked at all these things, I thought, oh man, okay, well, I guess I do more of these than I thought. So one of the examples they give you in the back here, that, it says, okay, fill out if you've ever done this and give an example type thing, right?
Yeah.
So for instance, under avoidance, I'll talk about anything but my real problems. I wrote, many times I felt this with alcohol. Thought I was open to my quote unquote real problems. Looking back for myself with the alcohol, I was aware when I drank too much. I mean, like I said, we talked about it at length. Wake up, empty glass, half empty glass in hand, TV still on, lights still on, sitting on the couch, fully clothed. It's 5 a.m, 4 a.m, whatever. That's not normal. That's not good. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't allow myself to feel disappointed in myself, feel shame.
Yes.
Feel
exactly.
What I did was deflect that,
yes,
and put it back on my wife, who was quote unquote attacking me.
Yeah.
Because she was pointing it out.
Who wants to feel shameful, dude?
No. Hurts, right?
Yeah.
Back to threat.
I'm not shameful.
No.
No, I'm too strong for that.
Yep. And right? then now you can start peppering in all the reasons why. Because hey, my dad was an alcoholic. Your dad was an alcoholic. This person, that person. I can cite why I am not even close to as bad as anybody else. I've said it before, right? I wasn't doing things. I was sitting in the privacy of my own home. I wasn't showing up late to work. I wasn't falling behind on things at work, right? Like everything that I was responsible for was taken care of. Bills are paid. Like everything's taken care of. So it's just like, nope, it's not debilitating. It's not. It's just once in a while. And then back to the justification of like, you don't know what it's like. You know what it's like to be, where you can't sleep. Where you're in pain.
Oh gosh, that's a big one, dude. When you start saying you don't know or you don't understand, woo. Those are, I mean, that's just like, through the program and through my journey, your journey and whatnot, like, you said this the other day, because denial's huge. And you said, it's like, man, you're so big with words. And it's like, I didn't used to be. I really didn't used to care. And then I was like, okay. And I have to watch myself sometimes, because we all communicate differently, and with sometimes the words we use, like with someone with anxiety or depression, when you say, oh, just get over it, that's really bad. Maybe you can be in denial because maybe you're, what's the word? Not portraying, but projecting your insecurities onto somebody else. So you're like, oh, just get over it. But in reality, your subconscious is telling you, dude, you got to deal with this crap too. Stop doing that stuff. This is your issue.
Until you pick up a drink and numb that voice in your head.
Exactly.
And that's another way to deny that something needs to be addressed, is to mask it with substance abuse.
Yeah.
Or anything.
Yep.
Like you can mask it with healthy things.
For sure, dude.
Bury it in the gym.
Exactly.
You can bury it in music, I'm sure. You can bury it in anything that you use to replace what really needs to happen.
And I think that's a huge misconception, dude, is I know that was for me. Okay, well, I'm not out doing A, B, C, and D.
That's right.
But I'm working on myself. I'm going to the gym. I'm practicing drums. I'm not cheating on you. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And now you're like, look at me, I'm doing good. But in reality, you're missing the whole point of what needs to get fixed. Yep. And you're just like, oh my gosh. I mean, I see it now, but I did not see it in that moment. It was like, you're the problem, not me.
No, 100%.
So sometimes, okay, sometimes the truth of the matter is there is sometimes in times in life where the other person might be more responsible for what's going on it can be at work, it can be in the relationship, it can be anywhere, but sometimes, yeah, there might be a little more percentage or whatever you want to call it of issues or denial going on both sides. But if both people are truly open, hopefully, we're on denial, but hopefully that untrue stuff you're telling yourself becomes truthful, and you can communicate that stuff better to yourself and then to the other person, your workmate, whatever issue you're going through. Because if you stay in denial, like all you're doing, crap will eventually, your baggage, your skeletons, your crap, whatever you want to call it, will eventually surface sometime. You can't escape it all the time. Maybe some people do. I don't know. Do some people maybe do? I don't know.
It's a cancer. And if you ignore the cancer, it's going to grow.
Exactly.
And it's going to reach a tipping point where now it's fatal.
Yeah. Yep.
It's going to get to the point where if you would have caught it sooner, like maybe there was a chance it wasn't that big a deal. Because we overestimate what it's going to take to solve problems.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is it's a monster. It's a gremlin. It's an unknown. It's a fear of the unknown. It's a fear of the result. It's going back to the anxiety of just wanting to have control. This is a major issue for firefighters because such a huge part of us starting from our initial training revolves around safety and it revolves around control.
Yep.
So for us, we take that and it bleeds into our everyday lives in every aspect.
Yeah.
And so when you don't know the outcome, it's scary. So people avoid that because what if this happens? And we always go to the worst case scenarios. And so it's easier to just, so if you have that weird thing that, like I said, you maybe I just had skin cancer cut off me. I was ignoring it. I was in a form of denial.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it wasn't because I am against doctors. It wasn't because I literally thought it was an ingrown hair.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It wasn't this big, huge, glaring thing. I was ready to grab it with a pair of tweezers, take the straight razor and slice it off. I mean, it was a tiny little spot on my shoulder, or kind of like my clavicle. And my wife's an esthetician. She says, "Hey, this thing's not healing. What's going on with this?" I said, "Honey, it's nothing. Just you're being dramatic, like always, relax." And she gets her little silly glasses on that have a magnifying glass, and she looks at it and, of course, freaks out that, she pulls it up online and, it's skin cancer. I'm going to die and all this. No, she wasn't that bad. No, but she identified it like quickly that it wasn't right.
Yeah.
She saw it under the microscope and she said, "Can you please go get that checked at a skin doctor?" And my first instinct was like, fuck no, I'm not going to a dermatologist. I haven't been to I don't even have a primary care physician. I don't get sick.
I'm the same way. Whenever I go to a doctor, says, "Hey, who's your primary?" I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would put like the department doctor.
Yes. That's, I'm pretty much the same.
I don't freaking know, dude.
Yeah. It's Kaiser workers' comp. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, so for me, I said, okay. And I'll tell you what, man, 6 months ago, I probably would have ignored it. I probably would have ignored my wife. I told her that night I would. And probably 6 months ago, I would have just like, yeah. And then been like, I'm not going to, she's being stupid. I probably would have went and sliced it off myself, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But no, I took it serious. And within a few days, I talked to another buddy of mine I work with who just went through this. And he said, "Oh, call this doc. He's great." And sure, went down. Yep. They found out it's skin cancer. Cool. They already treated whatever. That is, everything's good there. Point of all this, right, was I was in a form of denial. I was just looking at this thing and just not taking it, or not even inspecting it, not even looking at it. It's just like, it's just some weird little thing on my body.
Why do you think you were in denial? Did you ever think, "Oh crap, this can be something. I really don't want to deal with this. I'll get to it later," or was it, "This just isn't a big deal. I don't really care"?
Yeah, I think I thought it was an ingrown hair, to be honest with you, and I looked at it a handful of times, but it hadn't healed, or it wouldn't heal in the past few months. It was some weird little spot. Yeah. And I just noticed it and I kind of looked at it, and it's just like, somewhere I'm sure in my subconscious was like, "Hey, stupid, that's not normal."
Yeah.
But did I even connect the dots that it was to that? No. And it's something that's that small, that I can look at now and be honest with myself. Like, yeah, that's a form of denial.
Yeah.
And it's, and thankfully, my wife cares enough about me to pay attention to that stuff, and then bust my balls to go see a doc about it. But you go back to the more intense stuff, things like drinking or anything like that.
It can be mental health. I was in denial of, I don't need help. Yeah. You know, I've got this. You don't know me, or whatever, or you haven't been through what I've been through, or my story's worse. Blah blah blah, whatever. Yeah. And those are all forms of denial. And man, denial can get you in some bad places. Acceptance and letting go of pride and taking a piece of humble pie, man, will fix a lot of that if we're willing to. You know, I think for sure. But you got a big packet there, man. It seems like that program you went to. So for all the ones listening, he's got like, was it 3-4 pages, something like that? And looks like there's a full page of just different things they ask you. What are some of the things they ask you? So maybe people can maybe ask themselves some of these questions if they're listening to this, if they want their own little exercise, or kind of see if they're in that same kind of boat. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, the stuff that this thing asks you to do is, if you hear something or read something when you're looking at it, you can connect the dots within yourself, like as far as what would you do for this?
Yeah.
Avoidance, right? So I'll talk about anything but my real problems.
Yeah. So
again, I think I already said it many times. I felt this with alcohol, thought I was open to my real problems, right? Mm-hmm. That was my response to that, because it was, I wrote many times I felt this with alcohol. And what does that mean? It means like, I'll talk about anything but my real problems. Okay, well, I talk about alcohol openly. I talk about it with my wife. I talk about it with my friends. I talk about it with anybody that, I don't have a problem. I can quit anytime. I don't, it's like, it doesn't have a hold on me. I'm not powerless. I mean, I rationalized, which was later, same kind of stuff here.
Yeah.
Absolute denial, the no, not me. I don't have a problem. I wrote here, arguing with my wife. She tried to tell me, but I wouldn't listen. Sometimes feeling attacked by her. That, to me, that was probably like my absolute denial, was when the person who I live with, the person who I've spent the most time with in the last 4 years, who is telling me what she's seeing.
Yeah.
And what you said earlier is spot on, dude. It's not one-sided. It's not like she didn't have her part in things at times. Mm-hmm. We're all human, right?
Exactly.
But
it take that old saying, it gets cliche, it takes two to tango.
Yeah. No, but it's a part of this too, though, because that was the stuff where I could actually rationalize, minimize, compare, because I would take things that she had done wrong, and then that negates some of the things I've done wrong.
Exactly.
And that becomes a part of the package of the denial, right?
Yep.
So minimizing, this is a big one in the fire service. My problems aren't that bad.
Yep.
So if you were to ask yourself, what are my current problems? If you're honest with yourselves, are they that bad? And if they're not, that's great. But are they on a track, like we talked about, where they're going to end up being worse? So is it a little spot of skin cancer right now? Or right now, it's not bad. It's not festering. It's not infected. It's not showing like anything other than this tiny little bump on your body, which is very easy to look at and say, yeah, it's not that bad. Or is it already to that point where it's clearly an issue, but you just don't want to deal with it?
Yes.
And then are you willing to do something about it? So for me, I wrote for minimizing. I wrote, because I can stop drinking at any time, I felt my drinking wasn't as bad as my wife saw it. So, and this was funny, because this was the very first time I'd ever had this kind of class. And this was, again, within an hour. So this was all super off the cuff, like in the moment.
Yeah.
This wasn't after I went back and thought about things. And so I could definitely give more specific examples and stuff. This was just kind of a quick response to this. And I, looking at it now, I haven't read it since the day I was in that class.
Oh, really? Did you guys have to do this? Did you have to read your answers in front of everybody?
It depends. Yeah. Yes, you did.
Okay.
But not always. It kind of depends on the class. But a lot of times what they might ask you to do is like, hey, pick one or two out of these that really resonate with you, kind of thing. And minimizing was a big one, because for me, the trap that I had was that the truth is I can stop drinking anytime I want. I mean, I have willpower. My mind is strong.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like piece of cake. Like, watch this.
Yeah. And it's just when you don't give a crap, you're like, you know what? I can stop, but I really don't give a F right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do it, because I can and I will. I'm going to do it right now. Screw you.
That's right.
But I will stop if I want to. I don't want to right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. No, total vicious cycle, as we said,
Yeah.
right? So, rationalizing, you kind of mentioned this earlier. If I can find good enough reasons for my problems, I won't have to deal with them. So I wrote in here, feeling vindicated from stopping drinking, being educated gave me excuses that I wasn't that bad. So what I mean by that was there was a stretch where I didn't drink for, over a year. And that was almost that proof of, see,
I
told
can
you,
do it.
like this is you,
Yeah.
not me.
Yeah.
So when I drink, I have it under control. The times I do fall asleep on the couch, it's not as dramatic and into the world as you make it out to be.
Yeah.
You're making this bigger than it is, right?
Yeah.
Minimizing it again.
Exactly.
Rationalizing it.
Mm-hmm.
But actually feeling vindicated by taking that action step that shows. Because, then people are like, oh, wow. Because, I still went to places, parties, bars, met up with friends, and everybody's drinking. And, dude, you ain't getting me to do anything I don't want to do.
Yeah.
Peer pressure doesn't work on me. So if I would go to parties and guys, oh, come on, man, have a shot of whiskey. Oh, have a beer. It's like, no, I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah.
And they want to bust balls. Yeah, bust balls.
Yeah. That
doesn't bother me at all.
That happens to me a lot nowadays because I don't really drink that much.
Yeah.
And even in the band I play in, we just had a show a few weeks ago, and we were doing photos for this a shirt company that's supporting us and whatnot, and they're trying to do tequila shots and whiskey shots and whatnot. And I'm just like, I'm good. I'm good. Like I don't need that right now. I want to, I got to drive home. I want to go to the gym in the morning. I'm eating healthy. I'm doing my thing. And what's the first thing typically, like you said, guys are busted balls. Come on, man. Dude. Oh, you're not fun, bro.
When's the last time I saw you?
Yep.
Come on, dude.
Yep. All that stuff. And when you start taking responsibility for your actions, I think you've seen this. I feel like the majority of people in life, a lot of people live in denial. Yeah. I think that's the facts. And no one wants to look themselves in the mirror saying, maybe I am the problem.
No.
Screw, they made me drink, we got in the argument, or this call I ran, or this shift, or this captain, this fireman. Whatever reasons we can come up with to say, I'm doing this because of, you see it all around the world, man. You look over social media, you look at just how people live and the conversations you have with people. Sometimes I wanted to stop hanging out with people because the conversations are so negative and they're talking about everybody else's problems, denial, because they don't want to look at their issues. Oh, what about this couple? What about that couple? It's like, dude, stop. Because they're in denial of their own issues, and now they're trying to deflect their stuff, their problems on other people, because now that's drama, that's this, that's that. And you're just like, then you just stop hanging out with people because so many people are in stinking denial of, maybe that's not healthy. I'm going to fix this. I mean, you're smiling over there. It's so true.
Well, because we've had these conversations, and take it to the fire service, and every single person that has any fire service experience, what I'm about to say, I imagine you can immediately think of a person, but, picture the fireman who's Mr. Tough Guy,
I know where you're going, dude.
He's got the whole deal. He's the persona. He's got the tough stash. He's got all the leather. He's the tough, he's Mr. This, Mr.
Got the
Badass.
lifted truck.
He's always up everybody's ass. He thinks he knows everything. And he's constantly tearing everybody else down. And it's like, if you really pay attention to those people, oftentimes they're not as good as they think they are. In fact, they're usually
so true.
Not good at all.
Yep.
And I can think of several that I work with that I've been around and who are toxic individuals who, and the reason that they do that is, as you said, it's denial. I always describe this when I speak to like rookies and I'm developing people, and that, they're like, this is happening. And I'm like, look, if somebody is basically just hating on you, like you can't do anything right, it's like they're shining that light on you so that light won't get shined on them.
Exactly.
Because if they truly felt confident, they would help you. They would say, okay, you didn't learn this way. I'm going to find another way to try to help you learn this. I'm going to, maybe I'm not doing a good enough job teaching you this particular hose lay or ladder throw,
that's key,
whatever,
dude. That is key.
But we don't do that. We just immediately, it's a one and done. And then they come in, and what do these guys do? And girls do too. I mean, it's just firefighters in general. They come in and just, they eat their young. So they come in, oh yeah, this person sucks. They can't get it. And it's like, well, okay. One of my first questions is to people who come to me with that shit is just like, okay, I want to know everything you've done.
Yes.
Like start to finish. how many reps, how many ways did you try to teach it? I've talked to you before. I always use the analogy of jiu-jitsu. If you walk into the jiu-jitsu club and I ask you, have you ever grappled? And you say no, well, I'm not going to start you out with these advanced techniques because you don't even know how to fall down.
Yeah. Like someone like me, I would have no idea. You're going to have to go straight up bare bones foundation. Yep. Hey, here's how your feet are going to be standing. Here's here's your stance.
Yep.
It's like if with a drummer, I see a lot of people pick up drumsticks and everyone pretty much does the same thing every single time. You have to show them how to hold a drumstick.
Right.
They use it with their fingers and they just like they pat it down and it's like, no, you use all of your fingers, use your thumb, your hand's a fulcrum, but they don't know how to hold a drumstick.
Yep.
It's exactly right with you, man. It's like I would not know how to do. I've done a little bit of jiu-jitsu here and there, but nothing like what you've done.
But that example is perfect. I mean, you have to meet the person where they're at.
Yes,
and that's what
exactly.
it comes down to. So, and I just think that like these weak ass, insecure people that work in the fire service who have to armor themselves with all this caricature of being a firefighter, and acting, talking the talk and having all the cool stuff and, making sure that they fit this mold and always diverting the attention to others, right?
Yeah.
So I can tell you where a great equalizer is, and this is just off the topic, but like I was our PIO for a bit, and I have a lot of helmet cam, and you can get a lot of stuff off helmet cam. About, you were doing what, tough guy? What happened? And then you look, and that hose pulls a fucking spaghetti's nest. I mean, it's like there's a lot of people who, and they know who they are, and it makes me laugh because every time I see them, they won't say that shit when I'm standing there.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny and it sucks because you just think like, I feel sorry for those people. I really do. I feel like, man, how weak and how shitty their own individual lives must be to hate on people all the time. Like their whole existence revolves around constantly trying to tear others down. And it sucks in this job. And I mean, those are like the pictures of denial.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude.
And it's just, but anyways, we digress on that.
No, I mean, because but you say we digress. I don't think so because now when somebody's going through something, we're talking about a lot of things. Our podcast is about challenges and how to overcome stuff mentally, physically, all these things. But what happens is you're a new guy, you're coming in and now you're looking at these guys and when they're acting like that, you're going to start now taking on those, hopefully you don't, but if those are the guys that you look up to and they're the, guys that know their crap and they're the guys that, are the good firemen, good captains, good chiefs, whatever you want to call it. You're going to start to take on those characteristics too. So when challenges come in life where you can no longer be in denial, you can like stuff I've been through, stuff you've been through. What you realize is those people may not be there for you. And it's going to be up to you. You can no longer be in denial because maybe you'll go to them and be like, oh, these are my boys. These guys, these guys are going to help. And you've said it before. In reality, nobody, we had this conversation the other night and you really can only care so much about somebody because it really is up to us. It's not your job to take on my baggage. It's not my job to take on your baggage. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
We have to be truthful with each other, not be in denial, take these things and then take personal accountability on ourselves and do what we need to do. But if we're constantly around people in denial, then we kind of become that person in denial too. We take on those traits and now when things happen, we deny ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No.
I saw like you were saying, I get where we're all going with it. Like it's a big soup or a big tomato biscuit.
Well, I think it is important to understand that like these types of people that we're talking about, it becomes, they're the ones that actually impede progress for people who do need to get some help potentially.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that like in my situation, I was fortunate to do it all fairly quickly because of just multiple things about it, circumstances, like the opportunity to do so. My willingness to do so, support from my wife, friends. My department's amazing.
Yeah,
like, I got great people I work with. I'm really fortunate there. I am. I'm really proud to be a part of that organization. And but I know that we got a lot of work to do still too. And a lot of conversations with brothers and sisters when I was at the Center of Excellence who were in various stages. Some come from departments that outstanding, peer support, unbelievable, right? Like people that flew out there with them, paid for their flights, rallied up and got the money together to do the copay for. I mean, you name it, right? Then there are others that felt completely on an island. Union reps won't talk to them.
Really?
Departmental officers won't talk to them.
They're on their own.
Just various, and I mean, a lot of times it's based off the nature of, let's say, the issue the person is dealing with. And there's some significant ones.
And the person themselves.
And a lot of those people burn bridges.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's real hard in the recovery phase. I watched it with multiple people who, they had not, they asked for help finally, or maybe got voluntold to go. And now you feel like, cool, I'm here, I'm getting help. Well, that doesn't erase everything you've done.
Exactly.
There's still a lot of mending fences to be done.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't want to do that. That goes back into denial, where you start dreading the unknown of like, well, just me being in rehab should be enough that, I get like a pass, right?
Yeah.
It should make it easy. And I think the majority of us that do that, we don't feel that way because we recognize like, no, okay, this is part of the process, everything like that. But I did see people that expected that, and I saw it as denial. They weren't willing to face the fact that this is one step, man. This is the first step, and then it goes on and on.
Exactly.
And on. I had some long conversations with some people, and I think I helped them with it, but and it helped me too having those conversations because it always kept perspective for me. Because every time anything creeps up in my head, I always go back to like, hey, I'm the one that drank. I'm the one that did this. I'm the one that did that. I'm the one that, and it's just like, I'm glad that things didn't get out of control, or that I ended up being an actual functional alcoholic. Right.
Yeah.
So, the comparing, that's probably one of the big ones for sure, was I wrote here for myself, comparing to my dad, compared to my dad, I'm better than him. My dad stayed a patrolman and graveyard shift his whole career.
Oh, okay.
He did some canine detective work, stuff like that, but he could have promoted. He didn't want to. And part of why he didn't want to, I'm convinced, is because my dad drank. So like when he came home, he would sleep from graveyard, but and this is funny, man, I can say he's gone, but I remember riding along 12, 13, 14 years old, riding along with my dad, cop car, East LA. I want to say his shift ended at 6 or 7 in the morning. So, shift change happens. He goes back to the precinct, changes into civilian clothes, and I'd get in the truck with him. We'd drive over to the 7-Eleven, him and his partner, right? He'd buy a 6-pack of Coors.
Really?
The old yellow cans,
on duty,
right?
huh?
Well, no, he's off duty.
Off duty. Sorry.
But it's 7 in the morning.
7 in the morning. There you go. Sorry.
Right? He's been up all night on graveyard patrol. And him and his buddy, they go to the 7-Eleven at the corner, and 6-pack of Coors, behind the 7-Eleven. One for him, one for my dad. They'd drink that one beer together in the back of the 7-Eleven, and then they'd split the rest of the 4. So 2 for you, 2 for me. And then here's me, his teenage son, in the truck, and we'd get on the 710 freeway down to the 405, where we lived in Orange County, and my dad would drink those other 2 beers on the way home.
Really?
Police officer. And his buddy would do the same. And I don't remember where his buddy lived, but that was normal.
And when that's normal, that's what you grow up thinking is normal.
Yep.
And you see no wrong with it.
Nope. And he would go home, and it wasn't like my dad went home and got a fifth of whiskey out and started hitting and then started punching me and whatever. I didn't grow up in a violent household. I was fortunate. Dad was a super good dude, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that also reinforced to me that like, alcohol's not that bad.
Yeah.
Like, look, I mean, my dad's a super happy guy. He's fun,
Yeah.
But I didn't realize all the stuff he was numbing out, all the stuff he wasn't facing.
Did your parents, were they divorced or they?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was because my dad wanted to drink and party, and he cheated on my mom when I was younger.
Okay.
And my mom was a saint. I mean, my mom was awesome, but my mom remarried an alcoholic. My mom remarried a guy who literally worked, was a good man. He came home and he started cracking trying to remember what he drank on. He might have been like a Budweiser guy. No, he was a Coors guy too. Yep. Yeah, he started cracking the Coors, man, and sit there on his recliner until he had a 6 or 8 or 10 beers down and fall asleep on the couch, go to bed, and he'd get up for work. That man never missed work, never called off sick. that kind of stuff, right?
And that goes right into
So,
saying what we're talking about, denial, because
yeah.
you have that loop, whatever it is, the people you're hanging out with, the conversations you have, the relationships you have, you want to leave one for the next, and your brain's going back and denying yourself, well, I'm out with this person, I'm over here. And then you just go back in that loop, and that loop, that loop, and that loop. And you're in denial saying, I got to do something about this.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, denial is,
was powerful. I mean, this class, as I'm sure you went through this multiple times with many of the things that you experienced in your different,
like in the program and my journey.
Just not your program, but yeah, like everything, just everything you've done, right? Like there were things that jumped out. A couple of the ones that I thought were a little bit like I didn't resonate with. And this is cool for me to look back on this, but like manipulating. I'll only admit I have problems if you agree to solve them for me. I don't think I did that.
Yeah, I don't think I did either.
But I wrote in here, not sure I do this, think more on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it lets me know at that moment I was willing to go back and really synthesize it and try to see, was I being manipulative about it? Because I don't remember like trying to barter with my wife, like, I'll only do this if this, I don't remember saying that. And I don't remember saying that, like, because I mean, right here, the statement, if you agree to solve them for me, I don't know that would ever come out of my mouth, is because I always look at like, I'm going to solve it. I take it personal responsibility. I'm going to do it. So, flight into health, feeling better means that I'm cured.
What did you say? Flight into health?
They have it listed as a flight into health, right? So it's the quotation here is feeling better means I'm cured. And the way that they have the kind of laid out here, it says, I or my loved one stay clean and sober for a while. Things start to get better. Instead of getting motivated to do more and maintain the commitment, I convince myself I'm cured, or someone that is in your life is cured. And you don't necessarily need to now stay clean and sober. You can handle it. Yeah. And so if I look back on mine and I stopped drinking and there was no rhyme. It wasn't like I had said to my wife, hey, I'm not going to drink for this specified amount of time. And then on this date, I'm going to drink again. Right. It was like a random time. And, and that's part of it, is like, you think, yeah, I'm doing good. I don't need to stop. I mean, I can go right back to I don't need to, make this a habit forever or whatever that might be.
But the thing with our situations are different, but with yours, like I can definitely, it's bringing perspective, to me, man. I mean, when you see, because a lot of stories I have heard, are with alcoholism, is there is a lot of beating, arguing, and just a lot of bad stuff going on. And when you're like, no, my dad, dude, he just drank and he was a happy dude, and that's just what he did. And he was just you call it a functional alcoholic. I've heard of those things, but not someone that's my friend, that I'm close with. And I definitely see how in your brain, or how you can rationalize that, oh, okay, it's not that big of a deal. Let me do my thing. I'm not doing anything bad. Like, I've got the money to pay for it. I'm not out doing this. I'm not doing that. Just let me chill. This is my stress relief. Let me do my thing, because I'm not doing anything bad. I can definitely see how that can be such an easy denial, because really nothing has gone wrong. And then when something does go wrong, you're like, oh shoot, I can no longer be in denial.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's where we talked about where most of the mental health professionals I've spoken to, that's what they'll tell you, is that especially really strong-willed people like us, people who are in, high functioning, stressful positions, jobs, things like that, is that it usually takes some kind of bitch slap for us to, the wake up call. It's pretty rare that someone can recognize it early on, and stop that slow burn. And that's part of what we're trying to do here, right? Is just help people. So if anybody's listening and any of this stuff is clicking, I mean, it's like, then you should start looking into this stuff. You got to start talking about it. Start pulling stuff up, right? So, they've got recovery by fear, saying to yourself, being scared of my problems will make it go away. So, that's something that I don't know that is really for me. I'm not afraid of alcohol, right? Now, but I wrote while I was there, in my heart, I have felt scared of alcohol for a while now. And I think that like the last few months prior to my entire situation there, at a subconscious level, like it was definitely there that because I knew it was affecting my marriage.
Yeah.
I knew that it was, I was coming to a point of, I was going to have to make a decision on, do I want to just go complete sobriety? Do I want to say, I will put a hard, fast rule of limiting, I can have a beer with dinner, a glass of wine with dinner, maybe two.
Yeah.
Make a ironclad agreement with my wife, something like that. I mean, but I knew in my heart. Now, if you talked to Shane 6 months ago, I'd tell you you're out of your fucking mind.
Yeah.
But if I'm honest, like inside at the subconscious level,
Yes.
and I obviously wrote it. I was like, in my heart, I have felt scared of it for a while now, and that was, and the statement here is being scared of it makes it go away.
Yeah,
and that's that.
It's true.
You know, example going back to not drinking for a long time, that reinforced to me that, oh yeah, well, see, I have control, so I can stop at any time.
Yeah. Dude, that takes a lot, man.
So
that is not easy to come to grips with.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, if I'm real with myself and in my heart, I'm scared of it, you know, and to be, you know, people, when we talk about vulnerability denial, like, yeah, you know, you can be vulnerable in life or whatever, but the vulnerability and the truth starts in yourself. And when you're talking to yourself vulnerably and really, being vulnerable with yourself, not to portray to other people you're being vulnerable, like that's huge, because that's not easy to do, dude. That's not easy at all, man.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where the true transformations come, you know, and so.
Well, I think, and for me, like this type of exercise, when we did them, I didn't walk out of this class feeling like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Right. I felt like, cool, here's another layer to the onion, if you will.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is part of the overall treatment package, the whole thing, right? And just to have that perspective of like, wow, yeah, I have had various, you know, out of the 12, I'd hit like 10 of them, you know, where at some point in my entire life, not just my marriage or the job or any of that stuff, but throughout my entire adult life, I've done these things, and not just once. Like I've done them based on the scenario, right? Back to my silly skin cancer example, where that's not necessarily like this debilitating. It's not like it wrecked my marriage, not like it has anything to do with anything. But if I'd ignored my wife, just let it fester, I mean, at what point does the tipping point go to where now it's like, dude, now you have to get chemo, you got to get radiation, you got to be on meds, you know, it's going to alter you. Maybe you can't go back to the job. Maybe it becomes fatal.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting when you think about, it's kind of like when you're a kid, you know, those choose your adventure stories where you like, go to page this if you want this to happen.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I think of it like life with choices. And, you know, I think about, I had this dream. This is weird. I'm getting off a tangent, but I had this dream of my wife, like this was 4 years ago, before she moved here to this country. And I thought she was on a plane flying here. And the night before she got here, I had this dream and I thought, and it was kind of a fucked up dream, right? So in the dream, I got killed in a fire, which I get is fucked up.
Okay.
But hey, we're authentic, right? So, I don't normally have those dreams. I don't have those kinds of dark dreams typically.
Yeah.
But that particular night I had this dream, I got killed in a fire, right? And I had this very vivid image of this beautiful Brazilian woman, you know, getting off the airplane in LAX and, you know, coming down the escalator and standing there waiting for me. And meanwhile, she doesn't know anyone here in California, right? Zero. And probably thinking in her mind, like, this guy abandoned me. He was never going to pick me up. Now she's stuck here. I mean, she's super sharp. She would have figured it all out. But I had this just crazy dream about like, man, life changes in the blink of an eye. Like we have all these plans. We have all these things we want to do. We have, you know, some of us chase retirement for years. My mom, man, when she got cancer, it was out of nowhere. It was literally, she thought she had like a cough, you know, she thought she had this little like fever cough. That was Thanksgiving in 2020. And then, you know, she was scared of COVID like a bunch of the elderly people were. Yeah. She'd been vaccinated and she taught kindergartners, so the little germ farms, obviously. But her doctor missed it. Doctor was very nonchalant about it. Oh yeah, just take this. That wasn't working. And my mom had total faith in these people, and she wasn't as an aggressive and an advocate as I am about things. And I was busting her chops, but like I still feel some guilt about not being intervening sooner. But by the time we got her truly seen by somebody that could identify it, I mean, it was February, so you're looking at 4 months, and then find out, yeah, she's got a 4.5 by 3.5 inch tumor in her lungs, and the woman was 5'2" and weighed 110 pounds. So her mediastinum was being pushed over. She couldn't breathe. I mean, all kinds of stuff. I mean, she was on the brink of death. And I look at that and I think, well, was she in denial? Well, I mean, to a certain extent, I'm sure. Was I in denial? Yeah. Like, I probably blew it off thinking like, mom's getting older. She's, and you look back and it's like, you can't change anything. But the point of the story of this rambling, essentially, like, like all your plans, all your ideas, all your house of cards, man, that's what it is. It can all fall apart at any moment.
Real
Everything
quick.
can change,
Yep.
and I always think about that. And it's like, so if you got that little spot on your skin, look at it, and go get it checked, kind of thing. I mean, that's just one silly example, but I do think it's an important example because there are so many clues daily to let you know.
Oh yeah.
Your body tells you, when something's going on. Like I said, I know in my heart that my brain, my heart, my body was telling me like, dude, like, what are you getting out of drinking? Like, alcohol is doing nothing for you. Like, you're not a kid anymore. You're a grown man. You like it's like you can't even responsibly drink. Like, what the fuck?
And like you said, man, it doesn't, you're talking about alcohol because that's your thing. You said this, a little while ago. It can be anything, man. It can be video games. It could be going to the gym. It could be porn. It could be lying, to try to get out of things. It could be working more. It can be whatever it might be. There can be a lot of things. It doesn't have to be just alcoholism. It doesn't have to be, something we portray to be, well, he's just an alcoholic. I wouldn't do that, but I'm doing these things over here. It's like, if you're saying that, there, like you said, there's something in your head that you're not dealing with. And,
even relationships are that way. You said this earlier about, and we both did, about how it takes two to tango kind of thing. How many people do we know in our lives that we know they're in a toxic relationship?
Yeah.
We know that it's gone beyond the ability for that battleship to turn around. I mean, it's like that person needs to get out.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to do. And that's a form of denial, because when you know in your heart that the person you're with is no longer, it's going to work out.
Yeah.
That's terrible, because you're trapped in a prison.
Yeah.
And you justify it. How many people stay together for the kids?
Exactly.
How many people stay together for this, for that? I don't want her to take half my pension. I mean, those things. I mean, I remember I was really grateful to my wife, and it was fucked up. But when I left for my program, my wife told me, if you realize that you're better off alone, I'm not going to fight you when you get back. Like, I'll support you if you need to be single. And that was gnarly, because it's like, wow, yeah, okay. So when I'm out there, I leaned into that. Like, is it better for me to not be married? Is it better for me to be single?
Yeah.
But she had the courage to say that,
to speak up
before I left. And so it helped me through that process, because I wasn't there like, I have to, like, the result has to be when I get home, my marriage will be great.
Yeah, exactly.
Because now that unrealistic pressure, would have led to more denial.
Yes.
More trying to force the square peg in the round hole.
Exactly.
And I was able to, not have that additional pressure on me. Yeah. Pressure.
Yeah.
And so anyways, that was a huge thing for me. And I just think, like, denial in relationships, I mean, we see it in the firehouse all the time.
Oh yeah.
We know who they are. we these individuals, oftentimes they come and they share everything at the table. Everybody rolls their eyes and stuff, but it's a real thing. I mean, these people are suffering.
Yeah.
They're stuck in this loop. The denial's real, and it's tough, man. It's tough to get out of that.
So basically what you're saying is, don't be in denial.
Well, here's probably, like, try to,
so stop.
Have a little fun on this one, right? So here's the number 12 one. This is one of the newer ones. So they have the democratic disease state.
Okay.
I have the right to destroy myself, and no one has the right to stop me.
Yeah. There you go.
Yep.
It's my life, not yours.
That's a form of denial.
Yeah.
And it's fuck, talk about being prevalent. Look around our country right now. I mean, it's I saw a really funny thing the other day about like woke culture is finding, what was it, finding any and every excuse to be offended by everything
Yep.
except your own behavior.
That's so dude, that is so true. Like,
So
oh my gosh,
I saw that.
man.
I can't claim credit for it. But I laughed because I said, dude, I see the woke thing and I'm thinking like, okay, well, I'm pretty open. I don't care. I'm not a person that has like really strong beliefs about lots of stuff. I don't care who you are, what you do. It's all, live your life, man.
Yeah.
I want people to be happy.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's assholes in every gender, every country, every race. I mean, it's just like, you know, like people are people. There's cool people in every one of those categories as well, right?
Yeah.
So my friend group is wide and varied. But I thought that was great because that, to me, that's what's going on, right? It's like the people who have hijacked these types of things.
Yes.
And then, but on a serious note, now that kind of attitude has now diminished the seriousness of this kind of stuff.
For sure.
Because it's put a black mark on it that the words mental health, we don't like it. PTSD, we don't like it. You get attached to the victim mentality. That is like, you know, it is prevalent in this culture where right now it's very easy to be a victim. Everybody wants to be a victim. I mean, people are faking things like kidnappings and
they are
faking cancer diagnoses and stuff.
Man.
I mean, and it's just like, and the white noise you hear from the news, constant day in, day out.
Oh, you're gonna get me on a subject now. I got to stop.
Well, but I just no. And that's okay. I mean, this is one of those things where that is also a pattern. You know, it's like, and it is true. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Our country being free is amazing, and I've been around. You know, I've been in a lot of places in the world, not everywhere, but a lot. And you know, married to a woman who's from another country who will tell you we got it pretty damn good here.
Exactly.
We got a lot of freedom. And you're right. Like my father, he had the right to drink himself until he died. You know, on his deathbed, he looked at me in all seriousness and said, well, rum and coke wouldn't hurt me now. And the message behind that was, go get me a rum and coke. Like, what's the point now? I'm checking out. And I just thought to myself, in my head, I understood that he didn't, you know, but he was still selfish about it. But so it's like, man, that's fucking addiction right there. That is what that looks like. You know, he'd been in the hospital at that point for like 4 months. That'd been the longest he'd been sober his entire adult life. Wow. You know, and on his deathbed, he's, you know, room full of grandkids, his son, his daughter-in-law, you know, his soon-to-be son-in-law. I mean, you know, room full of people. You know, he got, I mean, if you had to die, I mean, it was a pretty nice, you know, way to go. I mean, he was surrounded by people who loved him, and, you know, he was surrounded in a way that, you know, we were texting people, you know, everybody was sending messages of love to him. I mean, it was a good death. Right? And the motherfucker, he says, you know,
had to get one more shot in there.
You know, he's like, oh, rum and coke. And I just thought, instead of looking around like, man, I kind of blew it. I wish I wouldn't have done these things. I wish I had. I mean, he's only 69 years old. It's like looking at his grandkids. Like, I'd like to see these kids grow up. I'd like to see them graduate college, things like that, get married, whatever. He was more concerned about drinks, and that just shows you. It doesn't mean he was a bad guy. He was still a super good dude. Had a good heart, but that to me was like, fuck, man, that is what addiction is. That is ugly.
And look at you, man. Like, you know, you had a couple things. It's, you know, you talk about your story and stuff, and, you know, you say you could do whatever you want, but here you go. You know, you got your dad, someone that, you know, you loved and you respected, and you guys, you know, you talk, you know, highly of him, and, you know, now you got your wife saying some stuff. So you had some things that were happening outside of you that you're like, it isn't just about me. You know, there's that emotional, there's that connection of like, I saw what this did to my dad. I saw what it did to their relationship. I see what it's doing to me. I see what it's doing to my marriage. And now you're digging deeper, and you're looking yourself in the mirror and being like, all right, yeah, I can do whatever the hell I want. Why not? But do I really want to continue that path? That's your choice. You can do whatever the heck you want. But you saw some things that happened, and that's how it was with me. I was in denial for a very long time, and like what the doctors say, you know, it typically takes, you know, something extravagant to finally make some change. It's unfortunate. I wish it didn't always have to be that way, but it is what it is. And you just make the changes and move forward, you know. And it's kind of like that analogy you used with, you know, the sailboat. It's like, you know, whatever way the wind's moving, you gotta,
Adjust the
adjust to sell.
Yeah.
So it's just in life, man. If you get so stuck on one way of life, that may not be good. But just adjust your sell, adjust decision making, adjust whatever it is to. Sounds cliche. Be the best version of yourself, or whatever it might be. But that's really, I think, the goal is to live the best life you can. And I think if you're in denial, um, you're not. You're probably not being the best self, your best self, I guess. Because once you fix it, and that's a constant life battle, dude. You can maybe not be in denial for a couple of years and go straight back to it. Just because maybe you beat it once does not mean that you are infallible and you're never not going to be in that same situation again. It's just every day we have stuff to learn. Every day we're going to grow. Every day we're going to have to overcome challenges. So we're by no means perfect. This is just a conversation to open up conversation to be like, okay, I'll take a look at that. Let's see where I stand and call it good. Whatever that is for you personally. That's how I look at it.
No, it's that story I just told about my dad. I mean, it took me 4 years following his death.
Yeah.
To actually face all this stuff, and
Yeah.
it was only because I was forced to. It was because I was into a position where I truly felt like I needed to stop everything and just delve into this.
Yeah.
And in those 4 years, I mean, as I said, I rationalized, I minimized, I compared.
Yeah.
I did all the blame.
Yeah.
I did all these things, but if you strip it all away and you look at like individual experiences, it's like, yeah, dude, you were fucked up. You were doing stupid shit. Like, it's embarrassing stuff that you did. Like, you're ruining nights because you're drunk. Embarrassing your wife, hurting your wife's feelings.
Yeah.
And not remembering shit. Waking up in the morning feeling no remorse or shame because you don't even know what you did.
Yeah.
And then seeing your wife like sad or crying, and you think like, "What is your problem?" And then she tells you, and what's fucked up, right, is like you feel a remorse because you feel like, yeah, well, I'm sorry I hurt somebody, but it's because you can't remember it. It's hard. It's so weird, right? But it's harder to actually feel sorry about it. So you kind of do this like, well, hey, I'm sorry about that. Hey, it was just because I was drunk. Like you minimalize it.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, it's not that big a deal. Come on, it's not me.
Yeah.
It's the booze.
Yeah.
And so like you want to like turf it off to something else, and then when they're like, no, it's you hurt me, then it's denial because now you're like, oh, you see, now you're being the victim. You're not accepting my apology, and then it was crazy.
Yeah, and what's crazy is I've personally I've been around you a few times where we've had some drinks and we've had some fun or whatever, but I've never really been around you seeing you like that.
Yep.
Me personally, every time I see you, it'll be a few drinks here and there. And there's a couple times I've seen you drink, but
we had fun.
We had fun. It wasn't anything crazy. So for me to know that, like
well, that's the thing, right? Like you're sitting at the firehouse table with me, and you have no idea of what I had done or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, and in my own head, I'm thinking like, yeah, no big deal. Again, it happened in my house. It's not that big, Again, not that big deal. Just rationalizing it. And it was, you think that seeing this experience with my dad and hearing him say that and feeling the anger I felt about it and about the whole situation, like, fucker, you literally drank yourself to death. You would think that would make me go, yeah, you know what, I'm not going down that path.
Yeah.
Here I was on the exact same path as him.
Yeah.
So where probably in 5 to 10 to 15 years, that me saying like, oh, I'm not an alcoholic, I just binge drink. No, I would have been.
Yeah.
Every day like him.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, there was a joke. My dad, it was when the mailman came. My dad's mailman used to show up at 1 p.m.
Okay.
That was when Dad could start drinking. So I'd call him, hey, what's up? All right, waiting on the mailman. Like, cool, right on. Yeah, and it was just normal. Ha ha ha. It was fun.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that sucks, Dad, that you're so shackled to this poison.
Yeah.
That, you can't even do something different because if you were to leave your house, you'll miss the mailman, so you can't get. It was crazy.
Yeah.
He would do stuff. My dad, he did things, and I don't want to not talk shit on him, but
yeah.
The truth is, it's like looking back, I think I did the democratic disease day. Hey, he has the right to do whatever he wants. It's his life and whatever. But man, he missed a lot of stuff. He missed
Yeah.
so much stuff.
Yeah.
I remember I was living on a sailboat in the Caribbean on the island of Grenada, and I was down there for better part of the year, and I was kind of bebopping around the islands down there. I was doing this kind of like cool triangle through. I was sailing down to Trinidad, and I was going like I'd like haul the boat out, I'd do boat work, I'd do whatever needed to happen on the boat, and then I would sail over to Venezuela and I would get fuel because back then I could get fuel for 6 cents a gallon. I could get diesel fuel. It was crazy.
Wow,
6 cents
a gallon.
No shit. Yeah. You get 100 gallons of fuel, $6.
Wow.
So, but also going to Venezuela was sketchy. That's another whole story someday. But then I would sail back up several hundred miles up to these islands, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There's like 34 islands in this chain, and some of the most beautiful places in the world, like the Tobago Keys and Union Island. And I met some great people. But this whole thing would take me months. I would cruise to some place. I'd be in Anchorage for 2 weeks. I'd go to another place for 2 weeks, another place for a week, another place for 3 weeks, whatever. And this whole time, dude, my dad's retired. He's sitting in the garage in Orange County.
Yeah.
He's got money. He's doing well.
Yeah.
He had a good retirement. They
yeah.
Go along in their house. And
yeah.
He had zero excuses.
Yeah.
He could have caught a flight to Grenada for a round trip.
What's up, son?
$600 and just hung out with me.
Yeah.
And seen some awesome shit.
Yeah.
Dove, fished, whatever. And it was like, but he wasn't going to do that because it was, he was anchored to that place because, all the booze was there. It was all in his garage.
Oh, man.
Looking back on those things,
that's crazy.
I those are some of the things that I keep in my mind, after I went through this process of like, I don't want to go back into any forms of these denials that I did before, that I saw growing up in my own family. And now I look around in my own friend group, my the people that are around me and stuff, and it's not like I'm like trying to nitpick or provide therapy for people, but I'm a little more aware of these things, and it's kind of one of those like people have to be ready.
Dude, that's huge, man. It's like you cannot change somebody else. They got to be ready on their time, their day, their whatever, and because you cannot, because all you're going to do is be trying to move a wall that does not want to get moved. And that's not our job to try to change somebody. It's our job to just be a
sounding board.
A sounding board, exactly. Yeah.
This, right? It's exactly, hey, we're talking about this stuff because maybe one thing in there, it kind of a little light bulb went off for you. Well, awesome. That's better than zero.
Exactly.
And hopefully you realize, like we've said many times, it's not a death sentence. It's all this stuff can be changed. It's healed. My own experiences, it really wasn't gigantic changes I had to make. I mean, it wasn't like I had to completely shift everything in my entire life. My wife told me that for a long time. And she said, you don't have to make these huge, huge changes. And me, I'm so extreme.
You are what?
Not me. It's all or nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
One's good, 10's better. So she didn't, she was trying to tell me those things. And it's, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. There is no, little tweak.
If people can see Shane right now as he is talking to me, you would see the intenseness as he's talking.
I can't. It's a better intensity than it used to be. Hey,
oh man. Yeah, for sure, dude.
But no, hey man, I enjoyed this discussion. I hope anybody that again is taking the time to listen. Hopefully they did too. And denial. It's real. So I have an idea. Well, there's things I did when I was in denial. We can get more, talking into, the more we do this, into some of the tools of how to journal, how to meditate, maybe of things I've done, you've done, or whatever. Is there anything you're doing daily at all with some of those same questions as far as journaling, like maybe writing things down of your thoughts, your feelings, your improvement you've made? Is there anything you have done now or recently or in a week of anything as far as getting those thoughts, documenting your own progress, or have you not? I don't know. No, not as much. Last few months, life's been in the way. I mean, I've had stuff going on that I needed to handle. I've spent a lot of time with my wife. That was super important when I got back, was to reconnect with her. Let her see the progress I've made. you know, basically just work together to confirm that we're on the right path.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, but we have good discussions. I mean, we are able to talk about things that we weren't before because it was going to trigger a fight.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, she can say things to me, ask me things, vice versa. I can do that for her.
Yeah.
So, the journaling and the stuff like that I'm a talker. I have a friend group that I can be very open with. I have some real close friends that I have great conversations with. You being one of them that you just sit here for a week, pretty much talking every day from the moment we wake up to go to bed, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, fuck, it's like free therapy, but it's also like it's a way to confirm to me that my compass is good. I'm on track. I'm paying attention. I mean, you were with me yesterday. Little things happen in life that could definitely you could make an excuse. I could make an excuse to like get pissed off, have a drink, let's say, or whatever the situation may be.
Yeah.
But dude, I'm just able to weather life storms so much easier.
Yeah.
Without the built up intensity and anger, and just where I can't reel it in, or I just let it rule my thoughts, or I can't sleep, or all this other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I loved you and I talked about this. I know you're doing a ton of journaling. I hadn't written with a pen
in a while.
I don't remember when, outside of generic fire captain stuff.
Yeah,
doing paperwork things, but like I'd never written my wife a handwritten multi-page letter. I'd write a card.
Yeah, me same here.
But I sat down at that place, and I think I sent her 4 or 5 letters, maybe more.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of a blur, but I know the first few times I was so, like, my mind was racing so much. I don't even remember all the stuff I wrote down.
Yeah.
But then I got the SGB shot. I was able to, write it a little more focused. But one thing I thought was cool was, and I think you're doing the same thing in your version, is it's like we get used to typing out text messages now.
Yeah.
And you think about it, when you type out a text and it's not complete and perfect, do you send it?
No.
Or do you delete?
I delete and redo it.
We all do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, no, you're going to send your representative. Like, this is always going to be polished. It's always going to look good. You're always thinking about, like, is the grammar correct? Is the correct? Is it funny? Do I have this? Do I have the right emoji? All these silly things that we're creating in our culture now.
Yeah.
So this constant pressure for us to be perfect, it's also self-induced, because when you send a text, you want to make sure that it's not incorrect. Well, when you write a letter, I mean, how many words can you cross out?
Yeah.
You feel like, okay, I'm not going to send this page because the whole thing's a mess.
Yeah.
And I just vomited onto the pages.
Yep, that's good. Yeah.
And I never read it. I wrote it, I folded it up, I put it in an envelope, and I sent it. And I'm like, well, hopefully I didn't say anything bad in there that's going to piss her off.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I tried different things to, whatever, like things I loved about her. I just wrote a list.
Yeah.
Just random stuff, trying to make her feel special, let her know what I was thinking, because I hadn't done that stuff for a really long time.
Yeah. No, and it's easy to get complacent too in that stuff too, man. Really easy to get complacent. I see that. I know I got complacent in denial. I'm doing all these great things, but maybe I'm not doing wasn't doing the things that really truly mattered. I can be doing 10 things. It was the one thing that really mattered, but I was doing, out of those 10 things, one thing mattered, but I was doing all the 9 things that didn't matter. So I was focusing, I'm doing this, but I'm not doing that one thing that really truly does matter. Maybe I can do one thing instead of 9 things, honestly. But so I kind of go back to yours, like for me, when I still do it to this day. I am such a big advocate for journaling, and I would say I journal I do journal every day. Sometimes it's long, sometimes it's short, but I would recommend anybody that's hearing this, like if you're going through something bad, going through something good, if the thoughts stay in our head, it's not tangible. And so when you write stuff down, like you said, you see your text message, you can see what you're doing. And there's numerous studies about typing something versus saying something versus writing something. And that's why I'm so adamant on journaling, because you're now seeing the thoughts you're thinking. And with me, when with my denial stuff, with guilt stuff, whatever, I would tell myself, okay, Eric, I would journal to myself, you've done good today. For how stupid this might sound to people, it really, really works. You know, you've overcome A, B, C, and D. Good for you, man, and whatever. You used to feel this way. You were in denial of this, or you're guilty of this. You've overcome that. Keep doing that. And if I haven't overcome it, I'll give myself 3 to 5 action steps to overcome it that day. And I'll now focus on that versus focusing on what I haven't done. So now I'm writing it, I'm getting it out, and I'm reading it, and I'm seeing something tangible. So whether I'm doing good or bad, I still stick to it to this day. And I've noticed for me personally, I'm not saying you have to do it every day. I'm not saying you have to do it. But if you're looking for tools to help keep your progress or even start progress, try that out. That's something I've learned, and I still stick to it. To this day, and I've noticed it really works. So I'm just throwing that out there.
That one thing that is then read it out loud.
It's huge. Yeah,
that's another thing that I think you and I discussed this the other night. One of the things that I did that was actually kind of really powerful was in the middle of the night I woke up from bed and I wrote out a several page description of a pretty significant call.
Yeah.
I've run with guys recently here in my city. And it had to do with the murder of some children and
yep.
A mother and some. One of the worst calls I've ever been on. It's up there for sure.
Yeah.
But I woke up and I had this vivid thought, and I sat down and just scribbled it all out with a pen and paper. I know, and you write on an iPad with your Apple Pencil, so everybody that do whatever works for you, right?
And so with you on that, because that's a big thing of what you said with when you write with a pen, you can scribble, so you're seeing where it's at. I don't erase; I still scribble it out to see where. Same thing.
You're writing.
I'm writing. I'm physically writing.
Which is fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's, as my eyes are so shitty now, it's easier. Plus, you can't read what I write anyway. So, I can be lying to you because it's all chicken scratch.
Yeah.
But no, I wrote this thing out, and as soon as I got finished with it, I went back to bed. I slept like a baby.
Yep.
I woke up in the morning. Now, this is after I got the SGB shot, no less.
Yeah.
And next day, I was talking to a guy about it. A buddy of mine I kind of formed a friendship with, and he said, "Oh, dude, that's awesome." And he said, "Can I read it?" So I let him read it, and then he said, "Dude, you should read that at the meeting tonight, at the AA meeting." And I'm like, I don't know, man. And I read it. By the way, I read it, and when I read it, I didn't really have an emotional reaction to it. I didn't really read it and just think, "Fuck, this is intense." And I was actually happy with the content. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's pretty descriptive. It's concise. It's I read it to you the other night. It's intense, but I felt good about it. So, anyways, the guy, "Oh no, man, it would help guys. It would, it's powerful, whatever." So at the AA meeting one night, I went ahead and read it, and as I told you, I was towards the end of it, and all of a sudden, man, I started getting choked up, and the next thing you know, man, I was like crying, snot bubbles, the whole deal. And that didn't happen when I wrote it. It didn't happen when I read it.
Yeah.
When I read it out loud.
Yeah.
So I read it to you the other night, and I felt the same emotion. It wasn't as extreme.
Yeah.
I didn't actually cry, but it's powerful, man. So
when
you journal, I'm with you. It's whatever works for you, but it's not just a singular thing, because it is. You're saying it out loud. You're getting it out of you.
Exactly.
So, you said the word purge many times, and it's like you're purging that stuff.
Yeah,
that's important.
Yeah, that could honestly, man. That I mean, it's great to end our podcast that way, but I think that can be something we can talk about too, of just purging calls you've ran, for all the active guys that are still on duty or whatever. There are ways to purge those calls and those calls, and exactly what you did. Those are some good tools that guys can do now that are on duty that I didn't have or I didn't even think about doing. And there's somebody, in your fire department you were talking about, one of a really respected guy. He's a poet, and he writes calls out, and they're like, I was like, wow, and he supposedly he's happy, he's doing good, it seems like, or whatever,
He's the number one guy on the job. He's been around forever.
Yeah,
he's open about it. He's been writing poetry for several years, and
there you go.
Guy's one of the best captains I've ever worked with, one of the best firemen I've ever known. And that's one of his many outlets.
Yep.
He's a man of many talents. He's a phenomenal carpenter.
Yeah.
So it's funny because you think like, I just need this one outlet. And it's like, it's very, very different. Because
yeah.
In fact, it's funny.
Exactly.
Another guy who's a retired captain lives on the coast. And if you knew the guy back in the day, he's a huge guy. He's just an ogre of a man. And he was tough as nails, badass captain. And right now he paints. And he paints these.
Really?
And it's awesome. He paints really cool stuff. But like, I've seen some pictures shown to me of like, he paints fields of sunflowers and things that had you 20 years ago, if you told me that this man was going to be doing this, I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah.
You don't know who this guy is.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
And not that he still isn't. I mean, I'm sure he's still a beast of a man and could still do this job.
And he said he was retired?
He's retired fire.
And that's a whole nother conversation of just, like you said, 20 years ago, whatever, you would have never thought this savage of a fireman would have acted a certain way. But a season in life, he's taken up things that maybe he probably even thought he never would have done, maybe because you're going through different emotions. You're having to find different outlets, different things to, talking to a lot of, this is going on forever, but talking to a lot of retired guys too. They get emotions they never thought they would get. Missing the job, missing the guys. So they're looking for new outlets to find some kind of purpose or fulfillment or how to deal with, maybe they never dealt with the trauma at work. Now they're at home and now all that stuff is coming up and it's hitting them like a ton of bricks. I talk to a lot of guys like that too. So there's so much we can talk about, dude. It truly is, man. It's that's funny though. He's painting sunflowers and stuff. Yeah, man. He's not in denial. He ain't in denial at all, dude. No. He's like just full on absorbing.
He's putting it all over the internet. He's proud of it. He should be. It's good stuff.
Heck yeah.
I love that, man. He was a great environment.
Nice. That's rad. Well, cool, man. Well, right on, dude.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And, like always, reach out to us. I'm at ricfirecaptain@gmail.com.
Yep. And I'm epadgettcoaching@gmail.com. See you guys next time.